Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and it's Women's History Month, and I'm here today to talk to you about cybersix. This was a cartoon that I watched back in 1999 on Fox Kids. And let's see, I was in high school around that time, so I was like a teenager. And you know how it is, Saturday mornings, you're watching stuff, and this thing came on called cybersix, and they had like the promo talking about like brains, beauty, strength, and all this other stuff. And I'm just like, oh, this is kind of interesting. Like, what is this and stuff. And it was like a superhero type cartoon series. They had a very unique and interesting like art style that just causes you to like, be mesmerized by it and stuff. The art style is very unique. The series is very unique. I don't remember exactly how I felt about this cartoon as a teen. I rewatched it like, last month, and I've watched like, the pilot episode probably like 3 times in general from when it first aired a couple of years back and like, just last month. And this is a very interesting, very bold cartoon series that I'm surprised, like, because there's like the hero is female and she cross dresses to be a male to hide her identity. I was very shocked that they had that on a cartoon back in the late 90s and stuff. That was just very unheard of. But the LGBT community was starting to like take shape and focus around that time with shows like something I for the straight guys, something like it was a show similar to that, and the whole metrosexual like craze started happening around that time. And so, like, but that was a very unheard of thing back then to have like a cartoon series with a depiction of a hero like that. And I remember looking at the art style and, thinking, oh, this is like probably like anime. Well, I'm half right on that. But the series, while I think it's a very good series, I wouldn't call it necessarily a great series, only because like there are things left out of the comic that this is based off of that would have helped me understand this a whole lot better growing up. Because there are things that are just like never explained and never really touched on. And so you have to just take it in for what it is. And the first couple, it only lasted for 13 episodes and it got canceled for like low ratings. But like you have to take it in for what it is. And it just like, it's a series that's like very quick and very fast in those first couple of episodes to get you introduced to those characters. So you're trying to take it in all fast while also trying to understand. And so, like, with the first episode, we get introduced to our hero and a couple of our side characters and our villains and stuff. And it was a lot to take in that first episode, I remember. I remember just thinking, what the heck am I looking at? And everything. I have this superhero who's female by night, and then during the day, I'm like, wait, is she a man? Like I first couldn't understand that at first, and then you have this one ultra villain who's always in the shadows creating these like monsters or like genetic weapons and stuff, bioweapon like hybrids and stuff. Then you have like his like hench person slash right hand man who's like a little boy who's like his son, and it's just like as wacky as can be, but as evil at the same time with a very unique walk he has. I'm just kind of like, what the heck? And everything. Then there was the art style on top of it, and the art style I would describe as like ugly beautiful. Like it's beautiful but in the ugly kind of way, but it's very unique and striking and stuff. Cause like the one thing that always got to me with the animation was one, like the monsters, which I can't stand looking at because they was gross, and two, the hair. The hair drove me nuts. Not so much on their head. The head was very unique and interesting. It was the hair on their knuckles and like the back of their hand and their arms. It just always freaked me out. It's unique and interesting, but it was just freaky looking because the hair on their arms, like the males and stuff, is like these rectangular strips. And I was looking at them. I'm like, what the heck am I looking at? Like, what is that on their arms? I'm like, oh, that's hair. And stuff. But the hair has never set right with me. And it also bugged other people. Stop. Oh, boy. But yeah, sadly, this show only lasted for 13 episodes. It leaves on kinda a cliffhanger and kinda not. You kind of have to interpret it and think outside your head. Kind of like it kind of does end in a way, but it kind of doesn't. And yeah, it does want you wanting more and everything. Originally, supposedly, there was supposed to be 26 episodes, but because of low ratings, they had to make it 13. Plus, the comic in which this is based off of is very graphic with like nudity, sex, drugs, people dying. So they had to really, chop that up in the editing process and to see what they wanted, what they didn't, and what they could keep in and what they couldn't. And it was a really interesting, unique, companies that made it. Like the cartoon series itself was a Canadian, Argentina, and a Japanese, collaboration and stuff. TMS, that does Batman the animated series type stuff, they worked on this project, and sadly they butted heads with the other Canadian company and stuff. One wanted it to be more serious while the other one wanted to be more lighthearted. And I've heard that TMS doesn't like doing Western projects no more and stuff, which is quite a shame. Now there's one episode I just can't watch anymore, and that's the third episode, I believe it is. No, it's either third or fourth. It's the Asian one with the two Asian kids. I'm sorry, but the way they're drawn is so stereotypical. I just can't watch it and stuff. And it was drawn by a Japanese company of all things. But, people are prejudiced, racist, and bigots all around the world. So, but it was just a little shocking that they would do that. But then again, they have done blackface over in Japan, so not too surprised and stuff. But it's just the way you look at them with the buck teeth and the squinty eyes and all this other stuff. It's just so offensive looking. I just can't watch that episode. And so cybersix was an Argentina comic book that was created in 1991 by that of Carlos Trillo, and who is, I believe, he's the creator, story writer. And Carlos, that's cool, both their names are Carlos Meglia, he was the artist. Now sadly, both of them have passed away. May they rest in peace. And so they created cybersix. And cybersix was this genetically engineered woman whose costume resembles that of the Shadow, a little bit of Zorro, somebody else, I can't think of it. But she wears this leather-clad outfit with this huge long cape that's double-sided, red on the inside, black on the outside, and it's very long. One thing about the animation in the cartoon series is that when it feels like it has a life of its own. I just love watching the cape. It reminds me of Spawn, and it even has a pop collar, and she wears a fedora hat. And so they created this in Argentina back in 91 under that of the, how do you say this? Scorpio, comics and stuff like that. And then eventually in 93, it went, I'm trying to think, it went to Spain and stuff. And then I think in like 94 it went to like Canada and stuff like that. And so it's a really unique comic that went through like, many different like, like countries and stuff. And eventually it just made its way to like America with the cartoon series. But there's never been an English translation of the comic. I believe it might be like, on Reddit or something like that. Like fans have like literally translated the comic and stuff. The comic is a whole lot darker than the cartoon series. The cartoon series is dark as well, but the comic is even more darker. And so like it's interesting because the creators of the comic, they sued Fox. See, the cartoon series came out in 99 on Fox Kids. But then in the year 2000 or 2001, I can't remember which one, James Cameron made Dark Angel. And there was a lot of similarities. Both were like female like crime fighters. In the comic, like I said before, she dressed as a man. Max was very much female, but she went by the name Max, which most people associate with a male name because she doesn't want to be called Maxine. They both wear like black costumes. Originally, the Dark Angel wore like, cotton fabric like black, but in a black leather vest. But then in the second season, she went more to black leather with a black leather jacket. Both are genetically engineered. Both were part of this like lab experiment with tons of other like genetic engineered people, but there was an escape. And there's a lot of similarities, but there's also differences. But the lawsuit was dropped because the creators ran out of money. I truly believe somebody saw that and just kind of like, hey, let's modify this and make it into like a live action series. But there was already a live action series. I believe it was 95. And I think it was an Argentina show in Telefe. That's the company that like aired the show. It was live action, and the creators of the comics got the right on the show. It was canceled after a couple of episodes because it just wasn't that good. The production value was very, very low, and you can tell by watching it. You can actually watch the live action show on YouTube, and they was ambitious, and I give them credit for trying their best to make the backgrounds look like a comic book type thing, but it just looked like really low quality and stuff, sadly. Now the intro, man, everybody loves the intro. The moment you hear that, like you just know it's coming and stuff. Like the intro is so captivating, so smooth. Like you can just listen to it for hours and hours and hours and stuff, man. It was sung by that of Canadian, I think she's jazz and blues, I believe, singer Corel Eglin. And it's just like she has such a smoothing, soothing voice. There is a longer version of the song, but the company does not want to release it. Ooh, that's messed up because everybody badly wants to hear it. And so, like, there's actually two different versions of the intro song because, like, okay, you can watch this on YouTube. TMS, they uploaded it on their channel and stuff, and there's one version of the intro that's a little bit longer, and you hear her voice. And then, so for the Fox Kids one, you can find that on YouTube as well. It's like a shorter version of the intro, and it feels like it's sung by a different person. Like the audio just sounds different. But in either way, like people just love the intro. It's one of the best intros ever, and I love intros in general. When I was a kid growing up, I would record a intro to a show more than I would the actual show itself or the action scenes, just because intros are more captivating and stuff. Kathy Versiluk, I don't know how you say her name. She's the one who voiced that a cybersix slash Adrian. Michael Dobson, he voiced Lucas and stuff. Each episode was expensive to make, like 360,000 like dollars just to create like an episode. Now it came out on DVD in 2014, so you can buy it, or you can just watch it on YouTube for free. And so the series in itself, like I said before, it was a very unique premise and everything, with some things explained from the comics and a lot of stuff that was just left out for that of censors that left people kind of confused and a little baffled and stuff. So cybersix, just like in the comics, she has a tattoo named cybersix. She's genetically engineered, and she was once a little girl, and then for whatever reason she was experimenting on this scientist. And so, like, by day, she dresses as that of a man named Adrian. What was Adrian's last name? I can't remember. Wait, I think it was something. It was something like Cidadomon or something like that. And so, like, this has been up for a lot of debate online as opposed to who is the real identity. Is it Adrian or is it cybersix? Because cybersix operates at night in costume as female, but then during the day, she operates as just that of a man and lives her life as a man, and even in the apartment lives her life as a man, and doesn't even change up until she has to go at night and, you know, fight crime. Now, once again, like I said before, this is up to debate, and many people have argued online as opposed to, is cybersix a cross-dresser, non-binary, or transgender? I've heard many people argue that, you know, they're one of the three. And I have literally seen people literally just argue in the comment sections and stuff. And I hate when people go to war and everything in comment sections, like, because I remember, like, hey, one person said that Cyber is transgender. And this one person's all like, no, she's like a cross-dresser and everything, which caused the one person to reply with somebody's like an actor or an actress name. And that left the other person confused, asking, well, who the heck is that person? Which caused the other person to not want to explain, but be like a smart mouth about it. And then it left the other person even more confused. And it's kind of like, look, if you're gonna argue about this online and you see somebody is confused, don't be a smart mouth and just start spouting off stuff. Like, actually help that person understand. Because it doesn't help your argument by arguing about this online and you're not even explaining, and you're dropping names here and there like this person's supposed to know who that is. And, you know, I personally feel that cybersix is just that of a cross-dresser. That's how it's always been interpreted, even in the comics. See, in the comics, this was never explained in the series, but in the comics, cybersix witnessed a car crash, and Adrian died like a little boy. So she took up his identity because he didn't have much of one, and it was easier for her to operate under the cloak and disguise of that of a man, so she would not be found out by her creator and stuff. Never has there ever been no implications that she wanted to be a man and everything. It was just more like just a disguise and everything. Also, like, see, here's the thing. I don't know if the whole non-binary and transgender identification and stuff has changed over time. Because my understanding of transgender is that you was born one gender, you had a sex change to be the other gender. As for non-binary, that's what gets me a little bit more confused, because it always seems to change and stuff. Originally, when it first started to, like, you know, be more mainstream, because you gotta remember, back in like the 90s and stuff, yeah, there were transgender people, but it wasn't as mainstream as it is now. And as for non-binary, I'm assuming yes, that's been around for very, very, very many years and stuff, but it did not become mainstream until recently and stuff, just a couple of years ago. Like a lot of people never heard of those terms before, especially non-binary. Because I grew up and I never heard that term ever until around 2015, I believe. Whenever people started protesting politics and stuff, and Roe versus Wade being overturned, that's when I started hearing people use the term non-binary, and that's when I started seeing people use like pronouns like they and them. So like I don't know how the original creators truly 100% intended it because you can't ask them because they did. But in like, the comics, it was just literally she cross-dressed and everything. And back to the whole non-binary thing, I remember it originally being a person not considering themselves male or female, but a combination of both. And they didn't want to be labeled as neither, so they went as they, them. As time has passed, it seems like it has just shifted and changed and modified. Along with that, a transgender. That's one thing I will say about the LGBT community, because, like I said before, I'm an outsider looking in, and I have tried my best to understand because I like giving people respect and everything. But I am so confused, man. Like, I'm not even like trying to laugh. Like, I am generally just confused because it seems, honest to God, like every 3 to 5 years, things like change and shift and get modified. And it's like a new sexuality coming up every couple of years. So I can't keep track, man. Maybe non-binary and maybe transgender has changed over the times that when I was first introduced to it. I have no idea. So just interpret it the way you want to and everything. But I'm going to interpret it as cross-dressing and stuff. Because never in like well, I'll get to the cartoon a little bit, but never in the comic did she ever have the desire of just being a man or feeling that she's both. And she never had like a sex change. And this wasn't like Sailor Stars, where in Sailor Moon, the Sailor Stars body would transform magically from a male to that of a female. So it was never like that. It was literally just to hide like, her true identity and stuff. Now, as for the cartoon series, they never addressed this because, they was never allowed and everything. So we don't really know if she's just using this as a disguise or this is just like her lifestyle or this is something she wants to be because it was never allowed to dive into that. So like I said before, just interpret it the way you want to and stuff. Now, as for Adrian, he is a literature teacher and he teaches at oh God, I forgot the name of that school. I want to say, remember, Miranda, Miranda Anna or something like that. Miranda Anna. That's like the fictional city in the high school they teach at. And so like, it's an English teacher and he gets hit on by the first day of school by a girl named Lori. And this happens in the comic as well. And when he rejects her advances, she gets pissed, but her goon squad gets even more pissed. And so they try to beat him up when he's around, like, the corner and stuff, when he leaves school property, which he's spotted by a teacher named, I think it's Lucas. Yeah, my bad. I'm having like complete, like, brain fart memory and stuff like that. Like I'm just like, I don't know why. Like I'm thinking of other stuff because something happened earlier this morning. And so like I'm just thinking a whole bunch of stuff. So I'm starting to lose track of my memory. But anyway, he's rescued by that of Lucas and stuff. And they later become friends. Adrian is like, it's weird because like the personality of Adrian and that of Cyber are somewhat very different. So Adrian is more like, slightly stern, kind and nice and everything, but has kind of like, this more grumpier like demeanor and everything, especially within conversation of like having with people and stuff. there's always like this grumpy look on his face. He wears glasses, he wears his hair back, and he wears baggy male clothes and stuff to hide, of course, like the woman features and stuff. And so it's really interesting because the personalities are very different. Cyber, while being a superhero, she likes to joke around while fighting, insult people, stuff like that. She's more of like a romantic and everything, falling in love with that of Lucas. Even in the comics, they actually get married and have kids. While in the show, it's more of a desire just to be with him. Because one episode, I think the second one, like Lucas invites that of Adrian to the movies. And when he asks what kind of movie, he says, a romantic one. Like he just says it in a really interesting way. And the lighting and everything makes it imply that he's asking him out on a date. And so many fans online are wondering, was Lucas like, into Adrian, or was it they just more friends? Well, the series, they make it more just to be friends and stuff. Not really sure about the comic, but I do know there's like the love triangle thing. It's like Superman and Lois. Because like, Superman, like, Cyber is Superman, Clark, and Adrian, stuff like that. And Lois is that of Lucas. Interesting how the names are similar. And so like, Lucas is always getting in the middle of like action for whatever reason. I'll get into that a little bit later. And it's very much like the Lois Lane thing. So you have Lucas in love with cybersix, but has befriended that of Adrian, not knowing that the two are the same. And Adrian even wears glasses and changes their hair. And so, like, you have cybersix talking about, she wishes she can go on a movie date with that, like, of Lucas and everything. And maybe she could just go with him as friends, as Adrian, and debates that and everything. And even daydreams of, like, wearing a dress and going out with him and dancing and kissing and stuff like that. And so throughout the entire series, you see Lucas literally says, he has feelings for that of cybersix and always trying to protect her and stuff. And she, like, her feelings for him aren't as like strong you see on screen, but like you can feel it and stuff. And in the last episode, they finally kiss because she knows this could be her last mission and everything. Now, what's interesting about her is that in the first episode, like I said before, just confused the crap out of me. When she's fighting like bad guys and everything, when she defeats them, they glow and then they disintegrate, and it's only their clothes. And there's a vial of green substance which she drinks. And I remember thinking to myself, well, what the heck is this supposed to mean? Like, I don't understand what the heck is going on. But in the comic, it's different. Because she's genetically engineered, she needs the green substance to survive, because her body will disintegrate and die on its own. So she drinks it from them like a vampire. And of course, cartoon series couldn't show that. Now, in Dark Angel, Max suffers from a neurological disorder and she needs certain medication to help regulate that. Very similar. And so, like, in the show, it's never explained why she's a hero. But then again, in so many other cartoons, they don't ever really explain it as well. Take Iron Man from the 90s. He fought villains and nobody knew why. Spider-Man fought villains and nobody knew why. Batman fought heroes and never knew why. Villains and never knew why. So I'm okay with them never explaining why she fights villains and stuff. It would have been nice if they would explain, because now I'm thinking about this in 2024 eyes, where everything has to be explained now and stuff. But in the comics, it's a little different. See, she fights them so that she can get the substance for them. And this is why she never goes after the main villain. She just allows him to send out his monsters so that she can find them, defeat them, and drink their like fluid and stuff. Because I always wondered in the cartoon series, why doesn't she ever just go after the bad guy? She never questions where the monsters are coming from in the cartoon series. She never tries to figure out where they're coming from. When she does find out, she's never trying to take it to like the main bad guy until like the last episode. And so it was always confusing because like they would do this stuff in the cartoon series, but you never knew why exactly. And so in the finale, the main bad guy created this doomsday machine type thing that destroys the city. And so she has to go there and fight him. Where it is now revealed, because remember I said she defeats people and that little serum vial thing will just appear out of nowhere? They dropped that after the first episode and is later re-examined again in the 13th episode. But we don't see the vial. It's literally the doctor dude's all like, hey, partner with me and I'll give you all the substance you need so that you don't have to die and everything. So I'm like, oh, okay, they finally brought back that mysterious green gooey stuff that they just stopped talking about for the longest time. And so that always bugged me because it was confusing and stuff. Now there are some really good episodes towards the end. Like the first couple episodes go by so quickly that you have to assimilate what you see very quick, and it becomes confusing. But around like the middle of the series, like around like I remember that bird episode, that's when I really started to just like take this show in for what it is and really enjoy it. Because there was some really good, like, this show is amazing when it comes to action. But there was some really cool, interesting episodes too. Like when she had to face off against this one villain, a female villain that goes invisible. And of course, she's there to kill her and stuff. But then it's like, it's an episode where we only see Cyber for like the first couple of minutes. But then after that, it's just all Adrian running from this bad guy. Their arm is messed up. And, they're constantly being pursued while on a field trip with the rest of the students and that of Lucas. And so it was just like an amazing like chase sequence and falling off like a cliff, and they're on this like bridge and like a train is coming and the hero saves the villain, and the villain sees the train coming and wondering, why are you trying so hard to save me after I've been trying to kill you, and realizes she doesn't want Cyber to die, so she just drops down into like the river and everything and dies. And it's a really compassionate like episode, and it's also interesting because it's Adrian in the forefront doing like the jumping around and the fighting and stuff like that, as opposed to Cyber, which I never explained the superpower set. She is very, very strong. And her fight skill is very unique because, yes, she'll punch you, but she mostly uses her legs to kick or jump on top of you and bounce off and do flips and all this other stuff because her legs are extremely stronger. And she has the ability to literally jump hundreds of thousands of feet in the air on top of buildings and stuff. And I really love when I see her like run across buildings and jumping off them in the cape. The Batman series that came out in the early 2000s, when he's running around jumping on building to building with that extremely long cape, reminds me of this. Also, I've seen people compare this to Batman meets Catwoman and Make a Child, and that's interesting because Birds of Prey on the WB in the early 2000s had a very similar like look, because that was Huntress was the child of Batman and Catwoman, and wore an outfit similar to that of cybersix, but just no cape, just a trench coat. But what's interesting is that she had the short hair like cybersix, and what's even more interesting, in the live action cybersix, instead of a cape, she wore a trench coat. So yeah, you can tell people have seen this, remember this, and incorporated it in their later comic series and stuff. And the thing about cybersix is she's very compassionate. Like, she always feels bad for like some of the villains that she fights, because some of the villains will show emotion, like Terra, the like Clayface type like creature. And she just feels really sad for this person because their person's life is ruined and everything. But they never explain what that glowing purple orb is that Terra would absorb from cybersix. And that's what I'm saying with the first couple of episodes, things go by so quickly, and I'm so confused as to what the heck is going on. But then in later episodes, things become more streamlined and become like a little bit more compelling. Like the werewolf episode, where like what's his name? Lucas gets like scratched by a werewolf, and then the werewolf turns out to be a teacher at school that he has a crush on, and she was sent there just to kill Cyber, and feels really bad after she gets defeated and stuff. And I do love that compassionate side to Cyber 6 because she could be as ruthless as she wants to, but she doesn't. She doesn't go around brooding. She's just your ordinary person. Like she's kind of like Buffy. She has this job to do at night, but she wishes she can just be an ordinary person and live her life as an ordinary person. And she tends to feel bad for people who never asked to be turned into like experiments and stuff. And I just love that side of her. Now, as for like the villain, the main villain, he's barely shown in like, the episodes. Dr. Von Richter or something like that, whatever his name is. He is a survivor of World War II. This is never explained in the cartoon series, but it is in the comics. And basically, he created in South America these 5,000 like cyber creatures and stuff, which are just hybrids of humans and stuff like that that he has experimented on and keep them in like test tubes and stuff. And he's very evil, but he's always hidden in like the shadows and he's barely there. So this show is kind of like a villain of the week type thing. It reminds me of a cross between Batman the animated series and Power Rangers. And with the art style influence of anime, kind of like a Sailor Moon type thing. And so because of that, you never know his motivations in like the cartoon series. He just sends out monsters to like his hench people to wreak havoc and try to kill Cyber Six, and that's literally it. So I really wish they could have done more on his motivations and explain like his backstory. That is a problem because, like I said before, I'm looking at this with 2024 eyes, but even in the 90s in those cartoon series like Iron Man, Spider-Man, and Batman, you do get an origin episode. What's up for Batman? But like you do get you get kind of like a modified origin with him, but you get one with Robin for sure. So it's kind of like it would have been nice to have an episode where it's like an origin story. In episode 2, they kind of do that, but not really. They needed more, in my opinion. And so like he's just creating all these monsters, and the reason why he created these 5,000, like I said, is never explained, but some of them started to be disobedient, so what he did was kill them. And Cyber 6, she just escaped and everything. And so he has like, a son. Now this is where it gets a little confusing. His son, Jose, in my opinion, is the real villain. He's a hench person, like, his number one soldier type person. Jose is his son, is a little kid, and they never go into Jose's backstory like in the comics. In the comics, Jose isn't his son per se. He's actually a 30-something-year-old clone of Dr. Von Richter, or Richter, or whatever his name is. And he put his brain in that of a like 5-year-old kid. And like I said before, it's very graphic with the nudity and the sex in the comics. And you would be blown away if you saw what this little boy looking thing does and stuff. So it's kind of like poor people. He just puts his brains into other people's like bodies or other animals and stuff. And so, yeah, he's like a clone in the body of like a kid, and he's like 30 something years old. But in the cartoon series, they never explain that. They just say he's his son. And this boy is hilarious. I love how they capture the youth of him. He acts like a young little spoiled, rotten brat kid who is evil, and he is very evil. You see him all throughout the series. He's able to drive, like he has all these hench people, and it's like they could have went one way or the other. They could have just made him into a silly goofy kid, or they could have just made him evil. I'm glad they did both, and the actor who voices him is amazing. And so every episode he's giving like these monsters to try to kill that of Cyber 6. And the monster designs are really gross and but really cool. Now, in the last episode, he gets pissed at his dad because he's all like, dude, you promised me the city. This is my city, and now you're destroying it. So he betrays his father by setting a doomsday device and sending it into a different location to destroy the laboratory and everything. The laboratory explodes, and then we see a tree fall on that of Jose as he's trying to make his getaway. But then it's later revealed at the very end of the show he survived and took over everything. Lucas Amado, who is voiced by Michael Dobson, he is the Lois Lane type love interest. Now, what's really confusing in the first couple of episodes is that okay, he is a science teacher, but in the comics, he's like a science journalist, but he has to be a teacher to pay the bills. When he befriends Adrian in the comics, it's because, he saw Adrian about to get beat up by those kids because he didn't want Laurie's advances, and they have a love of poetry. So they bond over a book, which in the cartoon series, I think is just he saw that he was about to get beat up and then decided to just hang out with him and be friends. They always go to this cafe and they always eat. And so when he's with Adrian and stuff. But like I said before, he has a crush on that of cybersix. Now, what was always confusing in the first couple of episodes was why he's always putting himself in the middle of like a fight. He's always in the wrong place at the right time. And so he'll see like all this bad stuff happening, and he tries to play like superhero and tries to beat up the bad guys, get like the green vials and this and that, where he meets that of Cyber. Now in the comics, he's been tracking her because he wants to know who this mysterious woman is, fighting bad guys and this and that as he takes her pictures and stuff. But in the cartoon, that's never explained. He's just this science teacher, for whatever reason, always trying to like fight the bad guys. And he's always getting in the middle. And when he sees an explosion through the window, he's all like, oh, it must be her and she needs help. So he runs out there to save her. I'm always like, why is he always putting himself in harm's way? If he's just a science teacher, it would have made more sense if they would have said he's a journalist and stuff, because he wants to get in the middle of the action and take photos and tracking that of cybersix. But that's never explained in the series, so it always left me confused and irritated and stuff. And so he ends up falling for like another teacher who turns out, like I said before, to be a werewolf, and he turns into one himself. And that was one of the more better type like episodes because at least there's more emotion and feeling with that episode, even though too much wasn't like really explained. And so he never knows that Adrian is like cybersix. They do the whole Clark Kent thing, which, yeah, because they change their hairstyle and they wear glasses and different clothes. They don't look the same at all because when you look at Adrian, he has a smooth face. But when you look at cybersix, her face looks more rough and everything and tired and everything and stuff. And so in the last episode, she goes to him and kisses him and everything because she knows this might be her last battle. But she never reveals her identity. Now, for whatever bizarre reason, she reveals it to that of Lori, the girl who's always hitting on her and stuff at school. And so as cybersix, she's wearing Adrian's glasses and leaves them on her parents' car. Why she decided to reveal herself to the teenage girl as opposed to the actual male love interest who's an adult, I will never understand. But it's just kind of weird. So when Lucas is doing his, I gotta protect her and save her and all this other crap, he's driving on his moped and Lori sees him and she gives him like the glasses and tells him, yo, they're one and the same. So he puts Lori in harm's way by putting her on the moped and they go race to cybersix. I don't get that. So now he knows who she is, and when he sees the explosion, he's sad until he goes by that of her apartment and sees that the light is still on, meaning that she survived the explosion. So Data 7. Data 7 is very unique, introduced in episode 2. See, there's a really touching flashback of that of cybersix hanging out with somebody when she's younger. Now they never explained what her real name was before she got like genetically modified. And so when they was kids, something tragic happened. They was on like a cliff and they saw like a flower and this little boy tried to grab it and he died. The doctor, he found that of the boy's body and put his brain in a Black Panther, later renaming him Data 7 for his Data series. And so, because it's a cyber series, a data series, I think a techno one as well, and stuff like that. And so, of course, you know, he sends the Black Panther, Data 7, to kill that of cybersix. When the Panther sees the picture of cybersix's like little brother, as it implied, he realizes, oh, this is my long lost sister, and then he befriends her, and then they fight crime together. So in other episodes, you always see him by her side fighting crime, and he can like leap really high and stuff like that, and he just loves her to death. Now I said implied brother because in one episode she calls Data 7 her brother, and another time she calls him her friend. But in the comics, it is her brother. Now, why she doesn't call her brother by his real name, I will never know. And I forget his real name. And out of all the other experiments, for whatever reason, he cannot speak. Julian is the little orphan boy that both Adrian and Lucas find. And basically, he's hanging out with the wrong people, but then she later saves him. And then, so he's not so much an ally, just more of a friend. And he gets mixed up in a lot of danger. Sometimes he'll save her, she'll save him, that kind of thing, you know? I never understood why neither one of them adopted him, because he's just living on the streets. Fixed ideas are like, you know, the monster people and stuff. I think, are they the monster people that fight her, or are they the goons? I forget which is which, but like there's different versions. You have like the monster hybrid people, then you have the goons that all look the same and they're kind of dumb with it and stuff like that. Then there are other ones that kind of look like them but not really, but have a little bit more intelligence. And so they're basically just genetic experiments. The goons are genetic experiments, just like not even people, just made to look like people and stuff. Whereas the other ones are humans that got turned into monsters and this and that. Now, this show has won at least 3 awards for like best animation, sound, and this and that. The music is beautiful in the background, but it's too loud in the background. You can't hear people's voices and stuff. But it is really, really nice. And it also sounds French. Like I used to always think this was a French cartoon, but it wasn't and stuff. It's just, you know, it was made in Canada, so I guess the French Canadians like saw this and like, ooh, and everything, you know what I'm saying? And you know, the comic and stuff, and they wanted to make it and stuff like that. Because I believe the Canadian company is that of a French Canadian company and stuff. So it is nice to hear like that music. And the backgrounds and like the visuals and stuff are great. The animation is just, like I said, beautiful, ugly and everything, but it's very beautiful and compelling. And like there's a scene where she's undressing and turning into cybersix, and it's like this glossy glow to the animation that's just like gorgeous and everything. And so, yeah, this is a really unique and interesting cartoon series that came out on Fox Kids in the late 90s. A lot of people remember this, but then some people remember it, then they forget it, then they remember it again. And it's always fun to go back and rewatch this series because it's very unique and different, groundbreaking, and, you know, just ahead of his time. Like how often would you see like a cross-dressing like hero, you know what I'm saying? And this was the late 90s of all things. Yeah, you would expect to see it now because the world is more diverse, but even so, you don't even see that in like a lot of the comic book stuff. Happy Women's History Month, everybody. All right, well, I'll talk to you later. Bye.